consultant working out of my office here in Mumbai. I'm also the founder of the Next Genius Foundation, which runs the Next Genius Scholarship Program and the Next Genius webinar series that all of you have been enjoying for the several few months during the pandemic. And in December, we offered all of you a Christmas present, which was a month-long SAT and ACT fair. And starting February 14th, we offered you a Valentine's Day present, which was a 6-week-long AP fair. And we have now come to the end of that AP fair. And I would say we have kept the jewel event right at the end here. Joining me today are 3 prestigious admission officers. Nicole Winsley from Union College. Nicole is the Associate Dean of Admissions and the Director of International Admissions at Union. Union is a small liberal arts college located in upstate New York. Hello, Nicole. Yujian Wang from the Undergraduate Admissions Office of Purdue University in Indiana is here. Hi, Yujian, good to see you. And Patrick Bourjac-Pinzon, who's the Assistant Director of International Admissions at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa is here. So good to see you, Patrick. And I know that colleagues from the Next Genius team are also here to help out in case there are any technical issues. So before we go ahead, just a couple of quick announcements, housekeeping related things. We are streaming this live on YouTube. So for those of you who are here on YouTube, a big hello. Thank you for joining us. And for those in the audience here on the Zoom platform, if you have any questions at any point while we are having the discussions, please do post them in the Q&A. And Nicole, Eugen, Patrick, and me will try to address them at the end of the discussion. So having said that, and for the benefit of my fellow presenters, let me give you a little bit of a feedback on the ground reality here in India. Obviously, you know, the pandemic has taken its own toll, and students are struggling very much at school. It was met with some jubilation, though, when kids heard that the SAT and the ACT were not required anymore. So there was a big hurrah from so many of my students. And you know, the verdict is still out there, I would say, in the minds of students and parents about whether to take it, not to take it, will it increase my chance of getting in or not? So that was the topic of discussion for a previous set of fair we did. And then there was interesting development, right, from the College Board, where they said that we are going to discontinue the SAT subject test and also discontinue the essay section of the SAT for the students who are going to take it. So that was met with some confusion because, you know, there were so many voices. There is the voice of the test prep tutor. There is the voice of the school counselor. There is the voice of the internet. There is the voice of admission officers such as yourself. There are folks like me who are independent counselors. So the reality is that there is a lot of confusion in the minds of students about whether to take the APs, not to take them, will it add value or not? So that's really the big reason, you know, why we were arranging this AP fair. The College Board news came a little bit later, although, but we realized the importance of this, you know, going forward. And I think it's been received very well. So thank you to everybody in the audience. In the last couple of weeks, there have been an increasing number of questions from school counselors to both our organization and test prep tutors about the importance of the APs, right? So APs were not as hotly discussed, and I think they're taking a more center stage here in India. So that is one data point. And the second thing that I have noticed, and again, this is feedback from India for all of you, is younger kids are starting to talk about the APs. So students at the end of the freshman year, sophomore year, typically it would have been the junior, right, who took it at the end of the junior year and then went into the senior year and made the college applications. But I'm seeing more and more younger kids talk about the APs. So that's setting the scene for what's going on. And I thought that maybe we could just touch upon a couple of questions today, and you could present your mindset and perspective. So maybe we can start with the first question for the day for the three of you, which is, how do you read an AP score when you receive an application? And we will talk about hypothetically two different types of applications, one from an international school or an IB school here in India, and one from an Indian curriculum school. And let's say you see some AP scores. How do you read that? How do you perceive that? So maybe we can start with Nicole, Eugen, and then Patrick.
Thank you, Neeraj. So I'll skip to, for students who are applying from an Indian curriculum, this is where I always say for students with testing that it's most beneficial coming from India, just because of the points at which we receive updated information on your academics in India. So typically you have your grade 10 boards, and then really having progress on your academics after that is limited in a standard curriculum. It's just not necessarily, it's meant to encourage you to do better. It's not necessarily completely accurate or reflective of your experience. And so I would say with when we see those test scores come through, it gives us a pulse or an idea of how your curriculum is progressing, and gives us a sense of the type of information that you might have covered in certain subject areas or components that are reflective of a standard that we understand. And so it just puts everyone a little bit more on a common scale to some extent. So it gives us a reference or a check-in point, perhaps past your board exams. For students coming from an international curriculum, again, I think really this just builds on how maybe you're challenging yourself within that curriculum, similar to other international curriculums. But often there are more points across your development with your transcript that we can watch your growth. So that would be the way that I think about it, is both give us a standardized progress report, for example, of what curriculum you're covering and how maybe your academic achievement is progressing on a standardized scale. But it's a little bit different for each type of curriculum based on what's provided. Eugen, would you like to maybe add to that?
Sorry, muted myself. Early morning. I would say at Purdue, when we review a student's, definitely look at their academic performance first before we're looking at their test scores. Especially for Indian students, if they're doing the Indian curriculum, we want them to do well in the standard 10 exams. At Purdue, we require 3 consecutive years of high school mark sheets. That means we do look at their 11th mark sheet. Sometimes for Indian student, we saw kind of like a dip in the 11th grade. So instead of emphasize on the AP scores, we do want to say students maintain that level of academic performance throughout the high school years. At Purdue, we do recognize the importance of ACT test. I'm not going to lie about that. Prior to COVID-19's, we see probably around more than 95% of our Indian applicants submitted ACT or ACT scores. And because of COVID, Purdue started this test flexible policy, which means if student can't take it, we will still move forwards with the application reviewing process. So in this year, we definitely saw an increase of the AP scores. But I think the AP scores, myself and some of our other counselors view it a cherry on top. If you're doing really good in your academic performance, then having an AP score does show your ability of mastering a certain subject. Like if you do well in AP calculus or AP physics, and you're applying to programs like our engineering programs or computer science program, that definitely adds a point for your applications. But if you're not even doing well in your regular curriculum, that's just not going to help with your application application. As for students in the IB curriculum or IGCSE, similar points, we want them to do well in those curriculums. And also with AP, one good thing is student does receive college credits, same with some of the IB higher levels and with IGCSE A levels. So for student in those curriculums, their IB curriculum or IGCSE A levels, we want them to focus on that instead of trying to take AP exams. I'll pass that to Patrick.
Thank you. So I would say that between the two my colleagues here, I think we're probably more similar to Purdue. We do look favorably upon AP scores, but we don't require them because we know that not every student has access to them. Not every school offers them. So if they're at a school that, think of it this way, when we're reviewing the applications on the review form, we the reviewers see a question that says, does the student school offer AP scores? And if we click no, then it just moves on, and then we'll evaluate the credentials that they did provide. If we click yes, that the school does offer it, then the next question that pops up is, did the school or did the student take any AP scores? And if that second answer is no, we're going to wonder why. And it's not a death knell for that student who didn't, but we're going to look a little bit more closely and wonder why that is. And it can be somewhat a slight blemish. Yeah, and going on, Eugene's comment about the SAT, ACT. We've been test flexible for probably about 7 years now. By test flexible, it means that if the student comes in with a certain grade point average, then we don't require the SAT or the ACT. The student can instead do an interview to replace that. This year, after COVID, we've become totally test optional, and we anticipate being test optional for the foreseeable future, meaning that students don't, regardless of their grade point average, we will let them replace their SAT or ACT with either an interview or an essay, up to them. And of course, we do, going back to the APs, we'll evaluate them for advanced credit.
Thank you, very helpful. So, very frequently there is this debate going on with counselors at IB schools here in India that should our kids even bother giving the APs, and many counselors I know, and I can see some of them in the audience, friends and colleagues from yours. One camp says there is absolutely no need to take the APs, right? IB is such a rigorous curriculum. You do not need to spend extra time and effort, money doing the APs. And the other school of thought is, hey, like you mentioned, this is a cherry on top, do something which is complementary to what is being taught here at school. And if you've got the bandwidth and you have an interest in a certain subject, and it's slightly different from what you're doing in the classroom, why not do it, right? It maybe makes you a more interesting application. So any comment on that debate which we need to settle here? We'll start with Nicole and then Eugene and Patrick.
Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to mention earlier, I wasn't sure how inclusive we were being with all of our content. So Union also offers credit for AP subject tests and the like. So what I would say about AP and IB is, and when you see the dropping of subject tests and things like that, really what you're reflecting on is the pressure from a broader community saying, listen, we can only ask so much of students in terms of what we want them to submit with their applications, and really not push students over the edge in terms of academic expectations. So what I will say is that IB is an incredibly rigorous curriculum, and if a school is delivering it properly, it is all encompassing in terms of the amount of work that's required, of a student and the expectations that it sets. So for us at Union, and I'm sure for most, the IB curriculum is very well regarded. Now, the only downside to the IB curriculum is how well your school is offering progress grades throughout the IB curriculum. Because unlike the AP, where maybe you take an external assessment exam in advance of completion, IB tends to be at the end of what I've seen for academic course review. So for timing, for applications to the US, I think that's sometimes where students and schools can see a little bit of a challenge. The curriculum is very rigorous, but then perhaps the school also suppresses progress grades. And so it doesn't allow their students to shine in the same way academically, whereas the AP tests allow students progress points throughout to show what they've academically achieved. So some of that, I think, is really reflective on what your school is doing in terms of progress grades and how reflective of actual achievement it is, making sure that's clearly communicated to universities so that we understand what those scores mean. And that's where the predicted score really comes in to be incredibly helpful. Because if we can track that predictive score is actually very reliable from a school over the course of several years, then we can rely on that as being a true and accurate reflection of a student's ability. Then the AP is extra. We're really going to focus far more on the IB coursework because it reflects the actual coursework presented, not crammed necessarily, and how the student has learned and then tested in progress throughout that curriculum over a much longer period of time. So, that's my perspective, Eugene.
I think Nicole already made some really good points. Just say it again, we as admissions counselors here at the universities and different institutions, we already recognize the rigorous of the IB curriculum. And sometimes we always say the more the better, but sometimes I don't think it's the case. In this case, like not the more AP scores you can get, make your application stronger. I think what students should focus on as an IB curriculum student is their IB classes. If they have the opportunity to take advanced classes, some of those higher level IB classes, that's what they should do instead of trying to spend more energy outside their already pretty busy, stressful curriculum to take extra like AP exams. That's what I just want to say here.
Honestly, there's not much more I can say. My two colleagues, I think, nailed it. Yeah, we would agree with that. One thing I would like to say is that you mentioned the disappearance of the SAT subject tests. At Drake, we were never a fan of those to begin with, just because, again, like Nicole said, it's just one more thing that the student feels compelled to do and turn in. So we never had it as a requirement. So it going away never impacted how Drake handles AP.
Super, thank you. So, while you were talking about this, something struck me, and how how much attention do you pay to the subjects that the student has chosen to do the AP in, and how that overlaps with what they're doing in the classroom? One student who is, let's say, a very strong STEM student, but they decided to do like a history AP, how would you see that student? Or vis-a-vis a student that is very strongly humanities or businesses oriented, and they decided to do like a physics AP or a Calc BC or something like that. So I mean, when you're reading the apps, what's going on in your mind when you see something like that?
Patrick, did you want to start? Because I feel like you get left to the end. Let's reverse the order. How about that?
Good idea.
Sure. No, at Drake, and I suspect the same, but I'll let them talk to themselves, talk to the issue themselves. But at Drake, we would not view that unfavorably at all. We're largely a liberal arts institution, so we like to see that anyway. We like to see, and we're going to expect the students when they come to take not just, in their major, but, general education courses, electives. We like to see them choose different disciplines to take courses in. So no, we would not look unfavorable on that at all. Now, if they're going into STEM and all of their APs are on something that's not STEM, we're going to wonder whether they have the ability to be successful in the field that they've selected for their major. But other than that, I mean, we like to see students, we review them holistically. So we like to see students who are taking APs in other areas than just what their intended major is. I don't know who's next.
Should we go with Eugen next and then Nicole?
Sure. Well, at Purdue, we actually do recommend students if they're interested in applying to a STEM program. We do encourage them to take APs in that kind of sort of relevant area. So if they're interested in engineering, science, agriculture, or any kind of health related program, we do encourage them to think about taking APs in, let's say, math, physics, biology, or chemistry. So I think that's a little bit different than what Patrick said. But yeah, if they have the energy and the time to take AP exams other than those subjects, I think it's something nice to see too, just to see they have a broad interest of a different kind of subjects, and they're gonna get college credits for those.
So I made notes. I'm sorry if you see, I know I have glasses. Sometimes you can see people popping up, but I'm like, I don't want to forget and not over talk what you were saying. A couple of things that I would say in terms of how you select your courses. First of all, your course selection should reflect your actual interests and personality. So if you're entirely interested in STEM and that's where your focus is, then absolutely your courses will reflect that. And probably your college and university list will reflect that as well. So I think that a student should not misrepresent their interests or their abilities necessarily. And again, I think the school that you choose to apply to and the courses you select will all be reflective of that. I could go down the liberal arts soapbox about why you should choose all sorts of other courses, but that is not this session. So I'm happy to touch on that later. The other thing I would say is play to your strengths. So sometimes I think students take things because they have to. And I'd say, it's the same with IB as AP, play to your strengths. If there are clear things, demonstrations of strength you would like to show us, you can make those course selections in that way and show us what your strengths are. But I will also say that if you're not in an English-based curriculum or where language might be a question, your courses should in some way, when you choose them, reflect your English strengths. So that could be an English course. It could also be history. It could be a course that reflects to us your English capacity. So I'm not just talking about your ability to speak English or to sing the most recent popular song, but how to do serious academic work in English. And so that's why many of us, even though you may come from an English curriculum, will ask for a demonstration of English ability, because our courses are a deep level of requirement with English, regardless of what subject you choose quite often in terms of the type of papers or research components that you'll have to produce. So those would be my 3 suggestions in terms of how and what you choose to select.
Fantastic. Thank you. Very insightful comments. So just a quick inquiry from the 3 of you. Do you see more APs being reported by Indian curriculum kids from India, or do you see more from the IB kids that come from India, just as a percentage of applications? Maybe we could start with you, Jian.
We definitely see more AP being reported from Indian curriculum students.
Is that true at Union as well, Nicole? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Super. Any comments, Patrick?
Same.
All right. Super. So recently I was having a conversation with one of the students who attended the webinars, and he was asking me, if I take an AP and let's say I don't score so well in that, let's say I got a 3, 4, should I report it? Will it affect my application negatively? So any comments on a question such as that?
We'll let Patrick go first.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fujian, go ahead.
I was saying we're gonna let Patrick take this one first. Well, I would say no. We want to see that students are doing those classes. I mean, 3 is a good score at Purdue. If you score 3 or higher, you're getting those college credits. So I would say students should report it. It's already showing they are challenging themselves by taking the AP subject, and they're doing okay. So I would encourage a student to report it on their application.
I guess I'm up. So at Drake, we actually, for college credit, we require a 4. So, but I wouldn't. I guess it's tough for me to talk about the strategy of the student to hide some of their work from us. It's really going to be up to them, but we'll look favorably on something that's a 4. If it's below a 4, not so much, and I'll leave it at that. They can decide what to do.
That's helpful, right? So, I mean, the message is the student should check with the college that when will the credit be given to me, is 4 the cutoff at your institution, so that's a great insight, Patrick. Thanks for that. Nicole, your comments.
The same as Patrick. So at Union, it's 4s and 5s that we give credit for. So I think that, reflects a little bit. Anytime you look at test scores, they're just benchmarks. We're looking at the whole application, but it gives you a sense of where does your application fit in that school's benchmark. So unfortunately, it's not universal in the United States. I'm sorry. So you have to look at each college and university you're applying to, and then decide sort of the law of average. Where do I fit in that benchmark? And that's where you decide if you submit your test scores. It doesn't matter what that is, AP subject, SAT, ACT. I think that is how you decide, especially in the age of test optional, it's a law of averages. Is it improving my academic profile or is it not? And I think that a student really has to think about that when they're applying to the school, but also how that impacts their application. It is a choice. And I do think that if a student didn't do well on an exam, it can mean a lot of things, and it is a choice for them to submit it. So you choose, it's up to you to sort of make sure your application reflects what you're capable of.
Fantastic. All of us talk about APs and credits in such a matter of fact kind of way. We know all about it, but in our audience, there are a lot of young counselors and students who many a times are lost about what does it mean to get credit, and do APs guarantee credit when I go to a college? So any of you would like to volunteer and explain and give sort of a credit? Yeah, go for it, Nicole. What are credits? What happens when you get credit from the AP and when you go to college?
Neeraj, I'm going to share my screen very quickly, if that's okay, not to freak you out. Hopefully that works okay. So most schools will have something that looks like this, where it allows you to go and look at what a school offers, what the test name is, what score is required, and what credit you might receive for that score, and what the requirements are based on that particular course or test requirement. That credit, what that credit means is that you receive credit at our university towards your graduation requirements. And so for each school, you have a certain number of credits required to graduate. And this credit allows you more flexibility. You get that credit for free. Basically, you don't pay for that credit. You've already done it. And it's applied based on your AP score. At each school, it may impact differently, even within discipline. So again, that chart I showed you, we'll dig in a little deeper. Does it apply for maybe a lower level STEM course or a math requirement, say for one of our engineering majors, will it allow you to not have to take that level of math course for your foundational engineering course? Or is it going to remove perhaps another requirement? That depends on the school again as well. And often the department, each department will decide how that AP credit is applied to your major or to your progress. But for sure, it will reflect credit, which allows, again, free coursework applied to your school, and also flexibility. So students will have flexibility within the courses that they're taking to do off-campus study abroad, internships, additional courses for fun and interest. So it offers quite a lot in terms of that component. But again, that's up to each school, university, and often academic department.
Anything you'd like to add, Eugen, to that?
Well, that's pretty much how you use those credits. Just to collaborate on that, at Purdue, I think we have 39 AP exams like evaluated by departments already. That means one student scored 3, 4, 5, they get different type of credits. Sometimes if you score at 3, what we call undistributed credits. That's gonna get students really confused when they saw that one XXXX on their degree works. That at Purdue just means it's elective credits. Students, academic advisor from the department will be the one that decided how a student will be able to apply those credits to their degree here at Purdue. Some of the classes like calculus or physics, students do have to score 4 or 5 higher in order to get what we call the course equivalencies here at Purdue. Then those classes, similar to those undistributed credits, is depending on the academic department to decide how those credits can be used for their degrees here at Purdue. I know at US, a lot of high schools are start encouraging students to take AP classes or the CLAP exams in order for them to get college credits before they even start college. That's a great way to save money in a way, because they will be able to skip sometimes one semester of college classes at a university. When they like enter university as a freshman, they already have 15 college credits already.
Very interesting. Thank you. Patrick, anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Like Nicole, I came prepared to share my screen, but she's already done hers to show exactly how we make that information available to students, and just how a certain score on a certain AP can lead to advanced credit. So, and like Eugen said, it's a really great way for students to save money down the road, because they can graduate maybe a semester early, or if they want to graduate on time instead of early, it kind of lightens the load a little bit for them for a particular semester or two, which allows them maybe to do more experiential learning with an internship, so that they don't feel like they've got too much going on. So yeah, that's how we treat it.
Super. And if the three of you want to email me the matrix, of that Nicole showed for each one of your schools, I can have that sent across to the audience that registered for the workshop today. So I think that can be a great resource for students and a primer as they start to think about colleges they're applying to and how APs correlate to credit at that institution. So I'm looking at the time, and we have about 5 minutes remaining. One last question from me to all of you before I jump into the Q&A. So any words of wisdom or advice from you for the students who are thinking of doing the APs? Any wise counsel from either one of you? So we can start with Patrick.
Advice? Well, I mean, I think it's important to, I guess, unlike what I said before, how we like to see, the students that are challenging themselves maybe in various areas. It is also very important to use the exams to showcase your strength in the area that you want to that you want to pursue in college and as a career. So yeah, that's my advice.
Let's go Nicole, number 2.
I think my recommendations were earlier: play to your strengths, reflect your personality and your choices, and make sure you're demonstrating your proficiency in English as needed.
Eugene.
We'll definitely maintain that good academic performance before you're thinking about taking a bunch of APs or other kind of tests to show other type of strengths. When we talk about holistic review, that means we are looking at your extracurricular activities. That means definitely pay attention, show those involvement within your community, in your school or outside your schools. Pay attention on your essays before you try to take AP classes. That's my advice when it comes to AP.
Very helpful. Thank you so much, the 3 of you, for participating today. I've selected 2 questions from the various questions that came. The first one is, what AP courses would you recommend for astrophysics courses at the institution? So I'm not sure which of yours, which college offers astrophysics. Does Union offer astrophysics? Yes. So if you would like to take that, and in general, you know, how would you advise somebody who's planning for, say, X major? Which AP?
So I think, you know, what students often forget is the strong proficiency in math requirement, which I think you forget because the Indian curriculum is pretty robust on average in math if a student is pursuing STEM. But I think a way to reflect that math component is part 1. Physics, obviously, it depends on what's available to you in terms of what you can take. I mean, that's the other thing too, in terms of what you can choose at any given time. Physics obviously is a component of that. Some students will pursue other STEM-based courses that reflect the direction that they want to go with that, because even within astrophysics, it can lead you in quite a lot of different directions. So I think your coursework reflects your interest even within that. And that's how I would say that you choose that. But don't forget the math pieces.
Astrophysics at Purdue?
I don't think we have a specific program called astrophysics, but it definitely is a component within our physics major. Sometimes a lot of students would want to come to Purdue and study astronautical engineering, because with all our astronauts here at Purdue, similar as what Nicole said, just definitely don't miss that math piece when it comes to physics. So AP calculus, it could be a great subject to take, as well as AP physics.
Super. And Patrick, anybody who wants to do astronomy or physics at Drake, what would you suggest?
You've done your research. Yes, we don't offer astrophysics, but we do offer both astronomy and physics, and students can do a fairly easily a double major in the 2. For either of those or both of those, absolutely French literature. That's a joke. Yeah, just like my colleague said, we're gonna, you know, if whatever physics are available, we would suggest they do that. Don't neglect the math as well.
Super, thank you. And one last question in the interest of time, and we'll close after that. So what about relying on predictive grades of a totally new IB school? Will, in that case, AP give a better picture of my academic profile? You know, Nicole mentioned about the predictive grades, right, from IB school. So what if it's a newer IB school, or it's a school that you haven't received applications from? Any comments for the student?
It's really tricky because a lot of it with IB is track record on the talent of predictability from a school. So in that regard, some of it may have to do with the progress the quality of progress grades that comes from that school and how the school reflects progress again, because that's part of it. We do all in the United States, we're sort of built to look at progress grades. That's how our system reflects curriculum achievement. So if that school is functioning on an accurate scope of progress for IB, then that would be fine. If it functions more on a traditional Indian focus of sort of suppressing to encourage achievement and motivation, then the student may be best served by having something external, similar to what we say for the CBSE or Indian board curriculum, to show progress, at least in the first year or two.
Super, very clear feedback. So I know the questions will keep pouring in and they will never stop, but time moves fast and it's already 45 minutes since we've started. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I know that it's 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning, Chicago time for all of you. So it's a real testimony to how committed you are to your jobs and to your profession. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great Sunday. We are now coming to the end of the AP Fair, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. It has been very tiring because it's been a lot of Sundays for all of us in my team, but it's been very fruitful. So good luck to everybody as you think about the APs. We will continue on with Next Genius webinars and bring you something very, very exciting in April. Just watch out your inboxes in a couple of weeks. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Eugen, and thank you, Nicole. And see you all very soon.
Thank you for the
Thank you for having
invitation.
me. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.